away we go.
All right. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of The Processing with Sam and Malik, a weekly take on life through the lens of husbands, fathers, believers, and also, of course, Philly sports fans.
That's important.
As always, this episode is brought to you by Sam's Community TV, creating content to establish a community through genuine relationship building. So, Malik, how are we doing, my friend?
Man, I'm good. Fighting a little bit of a cold, but we're all right. You?
I have no complaints this time, man. We actually got hit with another snowstorm in the Northeast, but I welcome it only because Philly hasn't had snow prior to this season for over 2 years. So it's like 2 years. We were in a 2-year drought where we had not accumulated at least 1 inch of snow.
Did you miss it?
Did I miss it? I didn't. Not require snow removal, so it was not it wasn't a sight for sore eyes.
I'm not really sure, like living down here in Texas or Houston now, that it's one of those things that I really am cool with. Like, nice little visit with the snow, and then I'm good. After that, like, I don't want to put a coat on and long johns to go get my mail. I don't want to put shoes on and like corduroys to go like clean my car off. I'm good on all of that. I'm good on all of it.
Well, luckily for you, you don't have to worry about that. For us, it's a hit or miss. But when it came this year, it was for real. So, but I want to really kind of jump into things, man, just so that we have time to talk about all the things that have transpired.
Yeah.
So let's first start with the NBA trade deadline.
Yeah.
So here's the question. And actually, as I pose the question, what I'm going to do, Malik, for anyone who's interested in joining us tonight, I'm actually going to drop the link in the comment section. That way, anybody who is interested in joining us, there is your link right there. Feel free to jump on in. But let's go with the NBA trade deadline. Did the Sixers make the right moves?
Well, let's start the conversation by first saying everything depends on Embiid's health, right? So, assuming he is healthy, if he's not healthy, then it doesn't matter what they did. Reality. If he's not healthy and he's not coming back, then they probably should have just moved on from Tobias Harris and got assets for next year. They probably should have just started just rebuilding right now to bolster the team looking forward. But I think they believe he's healthy. And I think the question, along with did they make the right move, is there anyone that you're really worried about? Because I think the Bucks got worse by addition with Doc Rivers. I don't think the Heat were, they're always a threat. They haven't really hit with Terry Rozier. They've been injured. They'll be there at the end, but they don't scare me if we have a fully healthy team. And then obviously it's going to be on Kristaps Porzingis and his knee in the Boston Celtics. That's your only real threat. And then out west, I think you've got the Timberwolves who are leading the conference, and then you've got Denver who Embiid can play with. So the real question is, if he's healthy, did they make the right moves? I think they did. And I'm all in on Buddy Hield, and I'm definitely about to get me a Council jersey. I'm all in.
Listen, I was telling you about Ricky Council, right?
You were telling me about Council. I'm a fan.
So I watched him in the summer league, and I just said, this kid plays with tenacity. He plays with force. He plays with effort. He's not going to shy away from the moments, it seemed. And, he got that stretch in the Washington game where he played down the stretch, and, he made timely baskets. He was attacking the rim on the offensive glass. You need guys who play that way. And here's what's fascinating about the moves the Sixers made. Here's where sometimes my brain doesn't catch up to me. I want to say it was about the third game after the trade that it dawned upon me, Marcus Morris Sr. isn't coming off my bench.
Right.
Because I thought he was like one of those guys that was getting a break again, like the Batums and the Covingtons and just along those lines of guys. And it just didn't dawn upon me. No, he was actually part of the trade package to get Buddy Hield. He was redirected to the Spurs.
Right.
He was dealt to get Buddy. So when I think about that now, and I think about a Ricky Council the fourth, there's some minutes there. You know, like we
He's
don't
definitely
really
makes sense.
have a lot of backup options behind Tobias Harris at that 4 spot.
Right.
You know, right now we're looking at KJ Martin Jr. And I think, you know, he has what I appreciate about what I'm seeing out of him now is that he seems to have a better understanding of what it is he needs to do on the floor,
Yep.
in terms of the pick and roll scenario, in terms of being in the dunker spot, um, and generally that's it. And then sort of like just being active defensively. Um, with that said, I think Ricky Council offers you a lot more flexibility offensively. Granted, he does give up size. You know, KJ Martin Jr. is a physically
But
bigger person.
he's a 6'6" wing with body, like with an NBA body.
I'm telling you, the kid is ready to play now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think he's shown enough that when the playoffs start, he's going to be a tool in your toolkit.
Yeah. So with the conversation being about did the Sixers do enough, you're talking about when the playoffs really hit, you're looking at 8 guys, maybe a rotation of 9, depending on what Nurse is going to do.
Correct.
You're not going to get much deeper than that. So you're looking at Embiid, Tobias. You're looking at probably Batum if he's healthy. Healed, Maxey, that's your 5. Then coming off the bench, you're looking at Campaign. You're looking at, give me some names here.
Wait.
That's Kyle Lowry at that point in time. We'll see what he looks like.
I'm sorry. You said Tobias, Embiid, Maxey, Healed, and who's the 5th?
Batum.
Got it. Okay.
And then you're looking at Oubre.
Yep.
Payne.
Yep.
I would assume Lowry.
Yep.
And then do you go much deeper than that? You'll see Paul Reed.
Yep.
But do you go beyond that? Right? So if the question is, did the Sixers do enough? You're really only wondering about, did they augment their top 8, top 9 guys to do enough in the playoffs? And I think with Healed and with Payne, I miss Pat Bev. Shout out to Pat Bev. I definitely miss him. He was a fan. He definitely fit the whole Philadelphia vibes. But Campaign's a reliable shooter.
Right.
And all of a sudden now you've got guys who are putting up 8, 9 threes and just spacing the floor differently for when a presumed healthy Embiid comes back. So did they change their 8 or 9 enough? And then you can slide in the event that Batum isn't going to be healthy, because I can't rely on him for 3 rounds, hopefully 4 rounds, maybe in the playoffs, and have Council be in there some, right? Or does KJ Martin, who's now developing into a player, where does he fit into all of this? So you've got a deep team.
Listen, I like our team. I think that I do think the KJ Martin, Ricky Council conversation is a fascinating one when you think about what the playoffs are going to look like for this team, if this is what it's going to look like at the end of the year.
Yep.
I think there still might be a buyout opportunity. I'm not sure. I'm really interested in seeing what happens with Marcus Morris Sr. You know, does he get bought out by the Spurs and he can come back home? I don't know. It would be great to get him back in the team. The other name that I've heard float around a little bit, which I also think would be a slam dunk for this team, is Danny Green. Bringing back Danny Green, a 3-and-D guy. Man. He spaces the floor. I mean, he was playing. Listen, very first game of the season against the Bucks, Danny Green was not the reason we weren't in that game late, right?
No,
again, I also thought that last year when we ended up losing, Danny Green, I think, was injured going into the playoffs. I think it was the first round, and so we just didn't have him in that second round matchup. But I always thought that he made heady plays, and I think if he's available and you just need another wing player who is versatile enough to maybe give you some 4 minutes, just as a spacer, knows exactly how to play in a Nick Nurse system. So you have the advantages of the fact that he played with Nick Nurse when they won the title. Oh, there we go. As well as the fact that he understands how to play uniquely with one Joel Embiid. He's played with Joel Embiid and Maxey. So I would look to see if the Sixers are looking to bring him back. But here's what I like about what Buddy Hield brings. First of all, he is much more than just a catch and shoot guy.
He definitely is.
I think we're getting the college version of Buddy Hield. And if you
the part that actually surprised me, the part that surprised me with Hield, the fact that he's putting the ball on the floor is one thing, but he's actually been averaging 5, 6. I don't know what his exact numbers are, but the games that I've seen him play, he's putting up 5, 6 assists a game. And that means that he's pulling guys to him, and we've got movement off the ball. And his ability to kind of get to the basket, which definitely surprised me, which may not have been something he was asked to do when he was in Sacramento or Indiana. Right. All of a sudden, he's putting the ball on the floor, and guys are rotating to him, and he's a willing passer. He's obviously a willing and capable passer. So that he's doing that's impressive.
If we have a situation where Embiid is just playing with 2 live guards, that's going to be a problem for anybody.
Yeah.
You have guys that can just go get it the way Buddy Hield has shown he can get it in the last few games. We know Maxey can always get off, but I almost think that this is going to help Maxey improve because we've not had a player comparable to Maxey on our team at all. And
Yeah.
what I've seen out of Buddy Hield just in the last few games, it's like, hey, Max, you might want to take notes from this guy. You know, like there's never been a player on the team. It's like you need to really watch. Excuse me. Watch how he's doing that. I mean, outside of James Harden and sort of setting the table for teammates, but generally speaking, Maxey's skill set has been so unique for this roster that he's been one of one.
Yeah.
But in the last couple of games, I'm just watching. I'm thinking, man, I need to see some of that from Maxey.
Yeah.
You know, like where it's like, hey, you're driving, but you haven't already committed to shooting the ball. Like you're still reading the play.
If Hield's ability to put the ball on the floor continues, and his willingness to pass and then shoot off the dribble, because he's actually, I've been more than surprised at the fact that he's actually a 3-level scorer. I did not think that. That's not what we had advertised. He was a guy who was just going to kind of hang out in periphery and just shoot an open jumper. And while he's hitting taking 8 or 9 threes a game, the fact that all of a sudden you've got rotations, and once Maxey creates, you've got a guy on the other side of the court who can either drive and kick or hit that. It'd be a willing shooter is a big deal. The other part about this is he takes some, and I'm actually a Tobias fan, so I know that's probably sacrilegious to say, but he actually takes some of the burden off of Tobias, because Tobias is not going to be the guy who you're going to look in the box score and shoot 6 to 7 threes a game. He's not going to do that.
3.
So he's going to get knocked down a peg. He's going to get knocked down a peg. And in fact, unless you call and put him in the post and run something specific for him, the ball's going to find him. And if he doesn't shoot it, Hield will. So
Tobias is absolutely the number 4 option on offense now. There's no doubt about it. You don't make the kind of trade that you do for Buddy Hield unless you're thinking about how you're going to build this team in the future with him as you're pairing him with Joel Embiid. I think he is a perfect complementary player based off of what I've seen without Joel Embiid on the floor. Because at first, to your point, I thought he was a guy who was more of just like a spacer. But his ability to create on his own, his ability to see what is happening on the court and just make the easy offensive play. You know, when it's he makes it look simple, which tells me that he has a level of understanding and command of the game that he can play with other great players.
Yeah.
You know, like he just jumped in and all of a sudden it's like, hey, that's a player. You can see it. When you know it, you know. And so to see that immediately, it's just like all of a sudden my mind opened up into the kinds of possibilities we can be offensively. Defensively is where it's going to sort of the rubber meets the road and how we win these series, right? Like we're going to have to find ways to get crucial stops when you have a backcourt that has Embiid and Hield in it. I mean, Maxey and
right.
But I think if you do have your Embiid as your rim protector and you do have Tobias, getting Tobias to just lock into a defensive mindset and a catch and shoot 4. Like if he could just be that guy, we will be okay. Like, look, don't worry about your ISO until like maybe when you're maybe running the second unit. You will run things through you. Other than that, know that you're going to be called on to be in the corner like Chris Bosh, catch and shoot, and strap up on defense. We have guys to put the ball in the hole offensively.
But I actually like the Sixers defensively in the East, right? Because most of the guards, I'm sorry?
With Hield?
I do. Because if you think, like, let's look at it, right? You're looking at matchups. So assuming that Embiid, obviously, everything is assuming he's healthy. Healthy. If he comes back, you're looking at Milwaukee, Dame Lillard right there is your guard, right? So you got one guy who's going to be a dribble drive threat, a guy who's going to be in the perimeter, who's going to do damage, who you're going to chase around a little bit, right? Okay. The Celtics have Jaylen Brown and Tatum. Let's put Tobias there, or let's put Oubre there, or let's put Batum there, and then you'll mix and match. If you're going to attack Maxey or Hield, that probably means the ball is not going to be in Tatum's hands. Who's your best player?
It can be in Derek White's hands.
That's fine. I'd rather listen. I agree with you, but if Derek White is your primary driver of offense at that point, it's not Jason Tatum. Which means
I don't think that. See, here's where this is going to be interesting because I'm going to the Boston game next Tuesday.
Yep.
But I think Jason Tatum sometimes gets into trouble down the stretch when the ball's in his hands. I think Derek White is a much headier player who understands the situation much better. So I don't know if it's a good or bad thing. Just putting that out there, because
I
I've
think his
seen
ability.
Jason
I
Tatum
think he is a
is
savvy player with
track
size.
what is going on the floor.
He's a savvy player with size. He has the ability to shoot and kind of know what to do in the moment, but he's not nearly as dynamic a player as Tatum is. He's not going to draw the attention that Tatum is going to.
Agreed.
So if the ball's in his hands, I feel more confident that we can either force a shot or a rebound that we are going to look for, rather than Tatum can do any number of things that are going to detriment the Sixers, draw a foul, get somebody else an open look. He's going to catch fire from 30 feet away. That's not Derek White. I'd rather the ball be – I like White, but I'd rather it be with him than Tatum. So if you're going to hunt somebody, hunt with White rather than Tatum, right?
Yeah.
The majority of the guards that we're looking at, the guys who we're concerning, aside from probably the Knicks with Jalen Brunson, the rest of the guards that really can prey on a guy like Maxey, because the playoffs become about matchups, are out in the West.
Nah, man, you got Cleveland, you have the Knicks. I mean, I think the East is
Brunson's the only one I'm worried about. Mitchell, I'm all right.
I mean, I just think when it comes to the Cavs, you have Mitchell. I think the Bull LVIII always gives us problems in the series. He's a guy who, generally speaking, he's just a bucket getter. The Knicks are going to be an interesting team.
Knicks will be good.
I think and then the Heat love to beat up Maxey. Even Indiana likes to play Maxey a lot more physical. And I was at the game where he had the 50-point performance. So I was at the game where he scored his first 50-point ball. Joel Embiid had 37 and 13.
Yep.
Great game. That was on a Sunday. They played again on Tuesday night. It was an in-season tournament game.
I remember. Yep.
They put the clamps on Maxey. And I think that's what we have to prepare for when it comes to the playoffs, is that there's a different brand of basketball. And depending on how the officials are going to officiate the game, sometimes it's a huge disadvantage to Tyrese Maxey if they let the guards bump him around. So
if that's the case, however, there's going to be no way in the world I'm going to believe that the way that you were getting up and down with Indiana during the regular season, we're going to see it in the postseason. I just don't believe that.
I agree.
So Halliburton is, I misspoke. Halliburton is absolutely a problem. He is no joke. He is no joke. That boy can go off from anywhere all the time. We saw it in the absolute worst All-Star game ever. But that being the case, I am still more confident with the ability to kind of clamp down and slow the game down on defense against the guards in the East than I am in the West. And I think Hield won't be as great a liability until we run into, God willing, we actually run into somebody on the Western Conference, like a Shea or a Luka or Jamal Murray.
Saying is true. And before I continue, I just want to say, anyone who is please feel free to join us. We dropped the link in the comments section. If you want to jump in on this conversation about, the toughest guards in the East in terms of the defensive matchups. But here's one thing I'll say. The same way people shouldn't have underestimated the difference of Damian Lillard and Drew Holiday in the Bucks in Milwaukee in terms of their defensive abilities. I think that we have to understand that there's going to be an adjustment in bringing a Buddy Hield in and having him playing 35 plus minutes a game. I'm sorry, there's a trade-off. So as much as you say we'll be okay, part of me believes that that's based off of what you've seen from the Sixers thus far. Buddy Hield was part of that Indiana team that didn't play defense. They were part of the outscoring bunch. So I don't know what that's going to look like. All I'm saying is that I think that we can be dynamic enough offensively to try to offset that. But I still have some, I won't say concerns, but there are some components of curiosity of how we'll address a scenario where they may target one of our guards, and it's like, then who do we bring in to combat that?
So then, realizing that a guy like Levine was hurt, DeRozan didn't get traded, Murray in Atlanta didn't get traded. Did the Sixers make enough moves? Did they make the right moves considering what the deadline actually looked like?
I think they did for two reasons. One, the 3-point clip that Buddy Hield shoots is he's like top of the league outside of Steph Curry. I feel like he's made more 3-pointers than Steph Curry in the last 5 seasons. You need a player like that with Joel Embiid. Yeah. And the fact that they've been attempting to make this happen for years only tells me Joel Embiid wants Buddy Hield on his team. So this isn't the fact that year after year there's always this
He feel like he's been a Sixer for like the last 5 years.
Exactly, which only means that Joel Embiid has signed off on this, and he wants
Yeah.
him as a teammate. So I think that this works perfectly for the Sixers. Um, and I think that, again, what I've seen just in the first few games of him in the uniform shows me that he is a three-level scorer. Like, that's one reason I was sort of maybe more high on a guy. Again, Levine was never a guy on my radar.
No.
Even DeMar DeRozan, to me, he's a two level scorer. Like, he doesn't do anything behind the 3-point line. And I think him and Joel sort of occupy the same space, strangely enough. But Caruso was a guy because I thought that he gives you your 3-point shot and he will defend. And I thought playing him with the Maxey, thinking about a matchup with the Knicks, thinking about a matchup with the Heat, having a Caruso on your team, I thought was important. I will say this: getting a Kyle Lowry, depending on how many minutes you play, there's some real value there. Like Kyle Lowry, especially thinking about the Heat, he knows what the Heat are trying to do. Like, you have to start thinking of gamesmanship when it comes down to stretch and certain things. I think the second half of the season, having Maxey play with Kyle together at times, I think this team is going to have a lot of different ways it can attack you. Like, I think we can look very different depending on which five we have on the court, and we can really attack teams in a host of different ways.
So now we're in the playoffs, right? So let's fast forward ahead. Now you're in the playoffs, and you're closing 5, assuming everyone's healthy, assuming everyone's available. You're closing 5 against, let's say, a presumed Boston, right? So you figure we'll probably be, hopefully we're able to kind of stay out of a 1-2 matchup in the first round. So then we go ahead, let's say we sneak by round 2. Okay, now round 2, let's say we play the Celtics. Your closing 5 are everyone's healthy.
Depending on how the game goes, if guys are up for it, my closing 5 could be Kyle, Buddy, Tyrese, Toby, and Embiid, or my closing 5 could be Tyrese, Buddy, Batum, Toby, Embiid.
Yeah.
Right? Like, either one I think could work. And honestly, I could have one where theoretically Toby's not in the closing 5. Right? Like, to me, it depends on what the game calls for and who's got it going. Like, I am tired of watching of watching games, especially under Doc Rivers in series, where the guys on the court aren't getting it done and he just won't make a different decision. That infuriates me. I don't understand.
I don't think that's going to be the case, though. I don't think we're going to be in a situation. We saw the other night. I know
it happens all the time, and I don't understand why that's the case, especially when you're in a playoff situation where it's like win or go home. The idea that's like, hey, I'm going to ride with the guys that got me there. Well, this day they don't have it. You got other guys in
I don't think that's a problem with experience now, because we saw the other night Tobias Harris. I mean, I know this was now a week ago with the All-Star break. Tobias Harris was subbed off for Ricky Council. Now, I don't know if we're going to see that in the postseason. That's a fairly dramatic move, and that's a lot of trust to imbue on a guy who is not even on a full NBA contract, right? In the postseason, he's going to contribute over a guy who has been a max player for the last 5 years. That's a lot to ask. However, I don't think that Nick Nurse is going to be stuck in his ways. I do not believe that he will be. And if there's a situation that calls for a specific player's skill set or level of aggression or willingness to do something or fill a role, I think he will determine based on that.
I thought we said that, and then we watched Joel Embiid get rolled back out there against that Golden State game. It's just like, why is he on the court?
Well, listen. Don't. That's a whole other conversation. I don't know why he was there.
Same thing. For whatever the reason is, they seem to make the same kind of decisions. I would say that Nick Nurse, Eric Spoelstra, and maybe Mike Malone, those guys I think have demonstrated like a willingness to exhaust their whole roster, even in the playoffs. So hopefully Nick Nurse remembers who he is and does that and doesn't feel compelled to just play the $35 million man. My whole point is that I think this team has enough players, especially with the addition of Buddy Hield, to be live in the playoffs.
Yeah.
we were fighting for the number 2 seed on the cusp of overtaking the Bucks when Embiid got hurt. And so it's like, we're 26-8 with Embiid. So it's like with Embiid, we win, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now essentially what you've done is you've replaced some rotation players with a starter. And a starter who actually is a very good complementary player to what you do.
Yeah.
Ensure that you have more space to do what you do. And if listen, I can't wait till I start seeing those guys pair together.
I look forward to it.
And I think the best part about it is that it's going to make Maxey improve.
Yeah.
Because Maxey, to me, in the last few games, I thought he's been really undisciplined. I thought that he's been very focused on scoring the basketball and not really reading the game and making just the right play. Now there's another guy on the court that I think will make him step up his level of play.
I'm glad you said that, though. I'm glad you said
like what he does.
I'm glad you said that, though, because I believe there's been a narrative around Maxey that he isn't progressing or that he is regressing in this role. Maxey is not going to be, I know we call him, or Embiid called him the franchise. He's number 2. He's number 2. And his ability to score off of Embiid's presence in space, now created by Hield also, does not change the fact that he has had to take on a larger role that he may not be suited for. He's still a young player. What is he, year 3? He's year 3. And now he's being pressed into doing more because offensively, if you don't have Embiid, you have a very inconsistent Tobias Harris, and you've got guys who are still finding their footing. Now all of a sudden he's forced to do more. So part of that reading as a young player is being caused by the fact that he doesn't have the complementary pieces around him yet. And he'll get there. I have every bit of confidence in a guy who first came in the league was thought as he wasn't going to be able to shoot. Then he comes in there, he starts, then he goes to the bench, now he starts again, and he's thrived despite all of the changes he's had to deal with. I think he'll figure it out. I have every bit of confidence that he'll figure it out. I just think that we need to give him the time and assess him in the proper context. That's it.
So this is his 4th season because his first was with Ben Simmons, bubble year. Then he had 2 years with James Harden. So I think Maxey, I think, is a brilliant basketball player who's only going to get better, and he gets better exponentially. So I'm saying that, boom. With that said, he has games where I just don't think he sees the court well. He has games where I feel like he believes it's on him to score the ball every possession. I'm just saying, just having the presence of someone like Buddy Hield on the court, I think will make him a better player because he won't keep taking on so much, to your point, right? Like
I agree.
And I think that it'll also make him look at his own game in terms of where he can improve.
Yeah.
Because Buddy is a guy who looks to score the basketball just like Tyrese. But what he's shown us is that as soon as that second defender comes, he knows what to do with the ball.
Yeah.
Unlike Tyrese at times, right? Tyrese is still forcing shots and getting his things punched into the stands where it's like that was a drop off.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you saw the defender stepping up. Like instead of trying to make the miraculous play, understand what's happening and who's opening up as he's stepping to you. And I think Buddy doing it so effortlessly was surprising to a lot of Sixers fans.
Right.
Now it's like, man, Joel Embiid's about to eat off this guy. Like he's setting up Paul Reed for easy buckets. Like, who thought that this guy was a playmaker?
Right.
So to me, I just think Tyrese now has a guy who can challenge him much differently than he's ever been challenged on this team in the past.
And it's a learning curve. It's a learning curve. It's a learning. And I think we've, like you just said it. He has improved exponentially over time. He'll continue to do that. He is a determined and disciplined enough player, although he may press and although he may take some ill-advised under pressure shots or try to force a play when it may not be there. I think that we're giving him the latitude. He's earned the latitude to kind of grow into that space and expect him to grow and continue to adapt under these new conditions. He'll do that. I know this is a conversation that probably is way past due. I love the fact that we didn't trade because he was part of the conversation for Dame Lillard and give up Maxey.
How about that? that would have hurt our feelings a lot, right? Because you're trading an all-star for an all-star, except you're trading an all-star that are 16 years apart.
You're taking an all-star for an all-star.
All-star for an all-star, but they're 6 years apart, and it's like one's on the way up, the other's not.
But wait, let me go further than that because it's an all-star for an all-star, 16 years age difference. That's 4 presidents, 4 Olympics, pre-COVID.
Right. I was joking. It's not 16.
We not much farther than that.
Dame's only 29, but it feels like he's older.
Only 29?
29, man.
Yo, he's like the Morgan Freeman of basketball, dog. He's definitely not 29. But yo, it's all right. So it's Morgan Freeman. It's an all-star for an all-star. It's 2 first-round picks at minimum, that we would have to go give them as well, right? And is the production different enough to justify that?
No. I mean, even right now, his stats are marginally better. Like, he just maybe averages a fraction more in assists than Tyrese, or assists or rebounds than Tyrese.
I am so glad.
I mean, Tyrese's numbers, like, they're on par to be the same player, essentially. So Tyrese's jump this year is phenomenal. I think, again, like, we have our guy. These 3 guys, I think Tyrese, Buddy, and Embiid are going to be your core for this next iteration. Again, to your point, that the best years the Sixers have ever offered us, right? Like, they went through when Embiid and Simmons were paired, we won games. We were a 50-win team when those 2 guys were on the court together. Now you have this next iteration with Embiid and James Harden. We won games.
Yeah.
We were a 50-win team when those guys were on the court together. I think this trio of Embiid, Maxey, and Buddy Hield, they are going to be a top 3 team perennially. So this is, I think, the best run in our lifetime of just like competent Sixers. Our issue is always going to be the postseason. Do we have enough to push the envelope and get to?
I know this is forecasting ahead a little bit, and I don't want to jump the gun, but I am so fascinated and extremely curious about what they do in the postseason. I don't want to get to the postseason yet, but I just gave a quick glance at the free agency list, and I think the best 2 free agents, aside from LeBron James, who's not going anywhere, are James Harden. Paul George is not coming here, and then Tobias Harris.
But I think Buddy Hield is going to be our free agent signing.
Well, okay, so assuming that we kept cap flexibility and we kept draft picks in stock, what are the moves that we're going to make in the postseason? Like that's not a conversation for today, but I think that was part of what this trade was.
Right. That's what I'm saying. This is your core. Because we have to re-sign Maxey. Maxey's not under contract. He's a free agent. So we have his bird rights. So we're going to re-sign Maxey and then sign Buddy Hield. Like, those are your 2 main signings, and everyone else are just like marginal pieces that you add to your rotation. Guys who feel like the Sixers are a destination to win. I think you can get a Marcus Morris Sr. back next year, depending on what his contract situation is like. Like, those are the type of guys that I think you can, if you get them back here, they'll compete to try to win a title. Maybe you can bring a Batum back.
So, considering the fact that you didn't mention Tobias Harris in any of that, should we have traded Tobias Harris this year to try and get another first-round pick? I
say Tobias, to me, the whole conversation on Tobias is depending on what he does for us in the postseason this year. So I can't make a decision on what I would do with Tobias until I see what Tobias does for us this year. It's that simple. I can't. And I don't think he's been a problem for the Sixers in the playoffs. I thought he's played well. But adding a Buddy Hield is another scenario where he's now the 4th option again.
Yeah.
Does he fall into that role seamlessly, or is it like, here we go again? He's got to adjust, and he's got to adjust quickly if this team wants to win. Chris Bosh had to become a very different player to win in Miami.
Yeah.
He was the man. He went to Miami. He had to be a role player. He had to be a 3-and-D guy. A perennial all-star all of a sudden was relegated to the corners, and he had to defend at a high level. And when he got an opportunity to do ISO, he took advantage because he had that skill set. Tobias, if we're trying to win, that's what it's going to take. You got the money. So if you can get a ring in your last year of having the money by just doing all the little things, because at 6'8", 6'9", like, he can be really unique.
Oh yeah.
Doing what we need him to do at a high clip. He's capable of it. And it's like, man, if he took the burden and pressure off, because now you have in a 3rd option in terms of a score, and just realize, like, all right, this is my area, and they can explain it to him, and he can visualize what he's supposed to do on the court, so that when he gets the ball, it's like an automatic instinctual decision and not like the whole thought process that we see with him, I'm saying, man, to me, if that's the version of we get, then yeah, we bring him back too.
You know what though? You know how like in an NFL game, you always hear the announcers say, get the quarterback into the game, give him short, quick reads, throws to the flat. Yo, get Tobias in the flat. Get that man on post-ups down low. Get that guy involved early. I don't necessarily need 20 points, 25 points from him every game, but give him quick 8 in the post, bro. Just let him go to work on somebody. Give him a chance. Because unless we call offense for him, he's not necessarily consistent enough of a decision maker for us to expect him to contribute on the fly. We need
to answer the question for us. If he's not a consistent enough a decision maker for us to trust him to make the decisions we need him to make on the fly, then you need to improve at that position.
I understand that, but I'm saying as far as this season is concerned, we need him to give us anywhere between 18 and 25 points.
I don't think so.
If he can give us that,
that's a lot. Because then now you're talking about, is Buddy Hield also giving you 18 and 25?
I'm not. Well, listen, I don't know what Buddy Hield's going to give me, but I know I'm not going to expect Kelly Oubre to contribute. I know I'm not going to expect Batum to be healthy.
You got to answer about Buddy Hield because he's your starting guard now, right? So it's like if you have a demand of Tobias, it's almost like the conversation we had with the Eagles, right? Yeah. Because I was lamenting the running game. You're like, Sam, I don't get it. They're paying receivers. Why do you expect them to run?
Right.
Well, again, Buddy Hield is there. We already know what Tobias is, but they're bringing Buddy Hield to be Buddy Hield. So to me, if you're still have expectation of Tobias to give you 18 to 25 a game, when he's not giving you that now, and you added another score, and to me, that's a lofty expectation.
But let me tell you the reason why, though. It's because of the way it can be done, right? If Hield is going to get the ball in the flow, and he's going to get his 9 threes up regardless of what's happening. Regardless of what's happening, he's going to catch and shoot it. We know that. We want him spacing. We want him to draw attention. And I don't think there's going to ever be a problem with him getting his opportunities. I'm concerned about the other guys. I know Embiid's going to get his if he's healthy. I know Maxi's going to get his if he's healthy. Hield's going to shoot the ball. I'm talking about the rest of the group. And the rest of the group involves Tobias Harris. And if he is not going to be a focal point in some way for a brief period of time, I don't know that we have a capable enough group of other guys to score to augment the rest of the team in the postseason.
But that's my point. He's not giving you 18 and 25 now. He didn't do that before we had Buddy Hield and we were still nipping at the second seed. So now you add a Buddy Hield. I don't know why you're expecting his production to go up when you've added offense.
Because he can't be a zero. That's why. Tobias is a capable scorer. Whether he does it or not, he is a capable scorer. I'm saying
it's like the whole Damian Lillard. You brought in offense.
I get it. Well, let me. But my point is though, I don't think that we're going to see Kelly Oubre. I don't not the level of like random 25, 30-point games that we've been getting from him. I don't know that we're going to see a healthy Batum in the postseason, right? I don't think that he's good. We haven't seen him healthy for 2 weeks. Why would I expect him to be healthy for 2 postseason or 2 playoff runs?
Right. So are you saying you expect 4 guys to average 20 points?
I'm saying that you need to be able to take your 8. And from your 8, I need 120 points. That's what I need. And Tobias has got to contribute to that. So let's assume
if he's giving you almost a quarter. No, you said 120 points.
Mm-hmm.
In the playoffs, that's a lot.
But it's math. It's math. Like, listen, we both went to good schools. Let's talk about it, right?
I think 120 points a game is a lot in the playoffs.
But all right, okay. So is it 110? Then what's the number then?
Sure, let's go with 110. I'm more comfortable with 110 than to expect us to score 120 in playoff series on average.
Okay, so 110, right? Let's say Embiid's gonna get you 30, which honestly in the postseason he's not consistently done efficiently. But let's say he gets you 30. Let's say Max gets you 25, right? So now we're at 55. Now your other 6 guys are Hield, Tobias, maybe Batum, whatever from Kyle Lowry, you don't know.
Points. Melton's going to give you points. Oubre's going to give you points. Kyle should be contributing some threes because he shoots 3-pointers at a high clip. He's shooting over 40%, and he shoots about 5 or 6 a game. So
I understand that. I am excited about Kyle Lowry. I just want to see what he looks like chasing somebody on the
My
floor.
only point is we're averaging 126 points a game today, and Tobias is not averaging 18 to 25 points today. So that's all I'm saying. It's like I don't know how we get to a point where you replace Melton with Buddy Hield, and now Tobias is expected to score more points.
Because I think Tobias Harris is going to be Tobias Harris is going to be on the floor to chase a Jason Tatum. Tobias Harris is going to be on the floor.
Right, so he'll be chasing. Chase. I don't need you shooting. I need you to chase.
The ball, we have seen it enough, Sam. We've seen this too many times. The ball's going to find this dude. The ball's going to find this dude. And we know that an aggressive Tobias is better than a Tobias that dribbles for 5-6 seconds and then forces some wild decisions.
I do. Trust me. I feel like we've exhausted this topic. I just don't see. Listen, if Tobias Harris averages 25 points a game in the playoffs, then I think we're winning the championship.
Look, if he, I'm under no illusions where he's going to average 25. I just said he is capable of anywhere between 18 and 25.
Yeah, but to say someone's capable of it, it's like, what does that even mean? What is he actually going to do? Is the point?
All right, realistically, if Tobias averages 18 in the playoff series,
I'm good with that.
That'll be fantastic.
That'll be excellent. That's what I'm saying. 18 to me is the high end. Like that is the ceiling for this team to be on all cylinders because someone has to do the glue stuff. Everyone can't put the ball in the hole.
Right.
You need somebody who's going to not think about scoring the basketball to do all the other things. I was just watching the Redeem Team on Netflix, and Kobe is like, it's going to be the little stuff that helps us win. We've all been the guy, but like we can't all be the guy and win the gold. So to me, I look at this team, Tobias. Here's your opportunity just to focus on being in the corners, knocking down an open shot, and then doing all those other little things. That is your value to this team to win at a high clip. We brought in scoring from the perimeter. We have scoring from the big man. You are the one unique player that can do all these other things that these other guys can't do. Buddy Hield can't be that defender that you can be. Maxey can't be the defender that you can be. Even Joel Embiid can't be the versatile defender that
you're setting yourself up to be so. You're setting yourself up to be so mad because
I'm saying like
all you're saying right now.
You want to win a title. You're what, almost 30 years old. You're not a young player anymore. You've had your heyday.
I agree with you.
This is
I
what we
agree with everything you're saying
now in order for us to get over the top. He shows me that we bring him back next year.
But the part that you're saying that's going to make you so mad is
all I'm saying. I'm not asking to give me 18-25. I'm just saying open threes and defend.
But the part that you're saying that's gonna make you so mad is that he's gonna always be on the floor, right?
Unless he's not.
Listen.
If Nick Nurse is who we think he is, then maybe he won't be. If he is done, you can go in a different decision. You can go in a different direction. But Batum can play the four.
Be practical for a second, Sam. Be practical for a second.
Batum can play the four.
Be practical for a second. Batum is not getting through 2 rounds of the playoffs, dog. He's not. You can stretch, you can Epsom salt, you can pray, whatever you want. He's not getting through 2 rounds of the playoffs. He's not gotten through 2 weeks of this season yet.
I got you. I hear you.
All right, so put that to the side for a quick second. Now, think about this practically. We started the conversation, and I like Hield, but the question was whether or not he's going to get hunted, right? Whether or not defensively he's going to be able to stay on the floor. And you know they're going to target somebody. Tobias, for all of his flaws, is not going to get off the floor because of his defense. He's not.
His defense. Right. We're saying the same thing.
Right, but this is my point. But this is what distinguishes him. And I'm not, you're making me sound look, Tobias has got a great shape up, but he's not a great player. I'm not trying to stand for the ball. But what I'm saying is because of his defense, he will always be on the floor. We don't know that about Hield. When the ball swings to Tobias, when he is on the floor, which he's going to be the guy chasing Tatum most of the series, right? Is he going to shoot in that spot?
That's all he has to do.
That's all he has to do. I just want him to do. And that's the 18 I need.
He's not getting 18 from just shooting open shots. That 18 to 25 includes the isolation. You don't get 25 a game just shooting open shots. Not into you don't.
That's what I was saying, Sam. Give me a little screen pass. Get him cooking.
I just need him to be cooking. I just need him to shoot open shots. That's what I'm saying. I need him to be Chris Bosh.
Well,
think about it. I can either appease Tobias Harris and we don't win, or I need you to be this kind of player so that we can win. We need him to be Chris Bosh so we can win. We're not trying to appease Tobias Harris anymore.
I'm not trying to appease him. I'm
You are.
definitely
You
not trying
talk
to
about
appease
giving
him.
some slippage action. Give him a quick screen, a quick rub.
Because
No,
I know
go
I know
through
who he
Joel
is.
Embiid, see how they play him.
Because I
If they
know who he
double
is.
team him, you move the ball, and if it finds you, you are a competent, capable player to catch and shoot. But the ball gets run through Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, Buddy Hield. I am not running offense through Tobias
And if
Harris.
Hill gets run off the floor, where does it go then? Where does it
He's
go?
not going to get run off the floor.
Okay,
He's
well,
not JJ Redick.
I hope you're right.
He's not JJ Redick. He's going to stay on the court.
I hope you're right. I hope you're
If that's
right.
the case, you're going to run Tyrese off the floor.
I don't think they're running Tyrese off the floor. Tyrese
And they're not running Buddy Hield off the floor. That's my point. Like those guys aren't going off the floor. They're going to be on the floor. You're not trading for Buddy Hield. Think about it. You're not putting together a plan where you trade for Buddy Hield to build your future, knowing you can't play him in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not who we got. We got a guy that can score at all three levels. He'll give you effort. He's not your best defender, but we're going to try to win with him. That's who he is. And with Tobias, your value for this team is going to be on the defensive end primarily. And just being a spacer. We need you to be Chris Bosh. Period. Not 18 a game, but competent, capable, shooting at a high percentage, because you know when that ball hits your hands, because it's going through Joel Embiid. So when they start throwing that coverages on him and the ball starts moving around, you know when it's coming to you, and you know when it's your shot to shoot.
I agree.
And that's all.
I agree. I think the Sixers are dangerous. The Sixers
are very dangerous. They're live, man. And I think
they're dangerous.
And I just don't want us to be in the play-in. As long as we can avoid the play-in, even if we do, we're live. I don't care where we go. I know the Sixers are live, but I do want us to avoid the play-in just so that the first two rounds aren't Boston and New York. Because I think New York's going to be the number 2 seed.
Well, they got some injury issues with Anobi getting hurt, his elbow or something.
Yeah, but I think they'll catch up by the end. All right.
We'll see what they do.
We will see. So,
I'm excited.
Speaking of what happens at the end, Super Bowl, was it 58 in the books?
Yep.
The Chiefs, officially a dynasty, right? They've won, 3 in the last 6 years or something? 2 straight? Officially a dynasty. What was your take on the game? Why don't we just start on an overall take on the game?
You know what? I honestly, I didn't know I felt this way. I am so glad the 49ers lost. Yo, honestly, I used to just think it only mattered to me that the Cowboys lost. I used to think it only mattered to me that the Cowboys lost. Like there could be peace in the valley. I don't care what happens the rest of the way. But this one, and I actually have family and friends that are Niners fans, and they're good people. But yo, these dudes, like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm so glad they lost.
Brother, I felt the same way. I've never felt like a hater watching other teams play ever. It's like, listen, the Eagles only won one bowl in my lifetime, so it's not like each year. And I watch Super Bowl every year for the most part, and I'm just a fan of the game. I've never in my heart wanted a team to lose, and the way they lost, it was perfect. It was perfect because it was just gut-wrenching. It's a gut-wrenching loss. And if there's one team that I'm thankful had that experience, it's San Francisco.
Well, but this is the thing. And like usually I'm not that person to like revel in somebody else's.
I just want to say real quickly, for anybody who wants to join us that's watching us live, we dropped the link in the comment section. So if you want to cam up and join the conversation, feel free to.
Well, listen, they can come here and talk about the fact that the Niners took that L too, but I honestly, I didn't have an issue with them. I didn't care. But just, you talked all year long about last season and trashing the Eagles, and we got the plan, and we exposed y'all. Handle your own business. Like, just really keep our name out your mouth. Really, that's what it came down to. I honestly didn't care about them at all. I wasn't thinking about them a little bit. I think they've got great players. They are a talented group. But you just ran your mouth and you've done nothing. Except they've lost multiple times now. The Chiefs started the dynasty with beating them.
Yeah, how about that? That? The dynasty started.
The fact that this has continued on their backs, I'm so glad.
It was
God in heaven.
Weird. So then they fired their defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks, right? And what was really fascinating about that decision is the only offensive touchdown that the 49ers gave up in regulation was off a muff punt. So the Chiefs recovered almost in the red zone. And that was the only regulation touchdown that they gave up on the game. And so it's like you're firing the defensive coordinator. Didn't seem like defense was the issue in that game.
So I don't know how closely you followed this conversation, but it was almost intimated that there was an element like, how did you fire this guy? And there might have been some racial overtones in it, right? And I am of, I don't know if this is a popular opinion, I don't know, but I don't necessarily feel like they had to retain him. He absolutely is a great defensive coach. I thought he really probably should have been in consideration for the Carolina job where he was the
That
interim
was
there.
weird. Yeah, because he turned
Right.
his season around. Like they won games when
Right.
Matt Rule left.
Right. Like I think that he should have been in consideration for that job. This is what I've learned though, following the Super Bowl, is that there were issues all season between the way in which Wilkes approached defense and with Shanahan. Whether or not it was a performance issue, different question, but there's a philosophical disagreement on how they was approached. Also, there was a way in which Shanahan wanted certain games called that Wilkes apparently did not, and there were disagreements there. I'm not a San Francisco 49ers fan, obviously. I don't follow them as closely as people who live there and live down with that team. But I do not believe that there was any part that said Shanahan had to keep him, despite the fact that he had a good performance in the Super Bowl. They didn't lose the game because of the defense. And if you make a choice as a head coach that you want to move on, you better stand on that choice because he is a good coach regardless of what outcome that was the game for the game. And so now you're in a space where that guy doesn't have a job. Everyone's been hired everywhere.
Right.
And so now he's probably going to be home.
Right.
And whoever you hire in place of him better do a sound job because you know the criticisms are going to come. So I don't know. If you're the head coach, you have that right to say, look, we don't agree. I just don't like you. And that's fine.
Yeah. And I think that's what it feels more to me like that was the issue. It's like, I just don't like this guy. And if I got to go out on a sour note and not win the whole thing, then let me put my guys around me.
Yeah.
Like this was brutal enough. And now it's like I got a guy that I'm not really cohesive with, that I got to deal with this pain of this loss with when, I think we should have made different decisions. And again, I still feel like, generally speaking, it was a clean defensive game from the 49ers. You lose Greenlaw, which is, that was huge, when he blows his Achilles. But they were in the game, coming in the second half, you have a 10-point lead, and if Kansas City's first possession in the half, they throw an interception. It's not the defense that decided to throw 3 straight passes and move backwards on their first after getting that turnover. Like that was where, listen, San Fran ran the ball 7 times in the second half. That's why they lost the game. Like they got outside of doing what they usually do. That's a head coaching issue from my perspective. You're the offensive play caller. It was a defensive game, but like you got away from doing what got you there, and that's why you lost. Your defense stood tall. They held them to 1 offensive touchdown that was only due to them getting the ball off a muff putt, essentially in the red zone.
Yeah.
Outside of that, they could not move the ball and convert. So, let's see. Do you still have my audio?
I have your audio.
Okay.
I have a lovely graphic.
Gotcha.
That to your shining face. There you go.
There we go. All right. So that to me was more of the issue in that particular game. But again, if you're the guy and sorry, let me see. But if you're the guy and things seem to be that detrimental, you just got to make whatever decisions you got to make at that point. And if that's what it is you have to do to save face for yourself, then you just make it happen.
Yeah. No, listen. And the other thing is Patrick Mahomes. I mean, the fact that the Niners were actually a favorite going into the game, I don't know how that happened. But there had been a shift.
They're a better team.
Well, were they though? Because you're not taking. If anybody was paying attention, Mahomes
they didn't do what they were supposed to. Like again, you don't run the ball in the second half. Seven rush attempts in the whole second half.
I don't disagree with you, but you know what? That defense on Kansas City's side, I know that we've been accustomed to big plays from Kelsey, big plays from Mahomes, but that defense is a championship defense middle of the season going forward.
I agree.
And so All of a sudden, when you can't run the ball, where they were making a clear effort to control the line of scrimmage up front and limits Christian McCaffrey's ability to make big plays and keep them in a second and manageable. All of a sudden, you're now forcing Brock Purdy to make a lot of throws, and he played well mostly. He didn't hurt you. He's not the reason they lost the game. The problem is you had that fumble, you had the muff punt, and you had a couple balls that just didn't bounce your way in terms of Mahomes scrambles where he makes those plays.
Right, but even think about Kansas City fumble when they're about to go into the end zone, right? Mm-hmm. They had the deep pass down the field, and then they're about to punch it in, and Pacheco, he coughs it up. So, like, to me, the turnovers went both ways, and the Chiefs turned it over twice, so they had 2 fumbles. So both teams coughed it up, so to me, that turnover scenario, like, both teams were impacted by the turnover bug. Both teams had 2 lost turnovers. And it went to overtime. I mean, it was a battle, man. Like, one thing I will say I appreciate about this the Super Bowl is that I thought the 2 best teams were playing in it, and I thought that they were prepared to play. I thought it wasn't a sloppy game. It was a hard-hitting game, good tackling. Unlike the Eagles playoff game, that sorry tackling in a playoff performance, it's like, I can't believe I actually watched all of that.
Wait, so my question to you then is how far are we competing at that level?
Not even, bruh.
Is there any a better question? I retract the question and rephrase. Rephrasing the question, I now submit, how likely is it that we are able to retool? Because it's not a rebuild. When you keep the same coach, it is a retool. It is not a rebuild. And get to a place where we can actually compete against the 49ers for the NFC Championship.
Depends on what happens to the 49ers next year. It depends on who we get. Like, NFL, the one thing I'll say is that it's hard to answer questions like that because, unlike the NBA, the NFL seems to turn over a roster in 1 year. Like, a team that's not in it 1 year is all of a sudden live the next year. Mm-hmm. Strange like that. So, I mean, we didn't think we'd be in the Super Bowl last year. So the fact.
All right, let's assume Detroit. Let's assume the Niners will be competitive. Then you assume the Rams will probably be good too. They were good this year. Let's say they step forward. Green Bay's going to step forward.
Maybe these teams step forward.
That's maybe, but I'm basing it. I'm basing it in part on the way they finished and kind of extending out their success. So, do we believe?
I just adopted a very different mentality when it comes to NFL football.
I understand. I do agree with your fundamental point.
I fundamentally have a hard time with carryover when it comes to NFL.
But we're not going to see 7 new teams in the postseason.
We usually do.
The
NFL is weird like that, where they have the highest margin in terms of turnover, in terms of new teams year over year in the playoffs.
No, I understand that, but can we compete with whomever you believe to be the top echelon of teams in the NFC next year?
As presently constructed, no.
Do you think it's likely that we will be able to make enough changes?
I don't even know who will be on our team next year.
Do you think it's likely we'll be able to make enough changes to get to that space?
I have no idea. I don't know what we'll look like. I don't know what our offensive strategy will be. Like, offensively, I don't know why we look so terrible, right? Like, we just, to me, had a very poor offensive strategy. Mm-hmm. I thought we should have been scoring. This team, if you look at the roster, why are we not scoring 30 points a game? Maybe this guy, Kellen Moore, can help us offensively. We're just, all of a sudden, we're a 30-point scoring team. Maybe our defense has a lot of holes, but we can outscore teams. We still have 2 top receivers. We have to make decisions in our running game. I mean, offense, like, there are a lot of decisions we have to make, but there's still some talent on the offensive side of the ball. So that's why I just have to reserve the judgment in terms of what I think the Eagles truly are. I thought we were rebuilding going into year 2. And that team went to the Super Bowl. So,
all right. So put some money on it now. If I had to say to you, February 19th, postseason or not?
Well, I always put money on the Birds going all the way.
So then there you go. You think they compete?
Well, no. It's just a good bet, right? Because if I lose, I just lose $100. But if I win, you see what I'm saying?
Oh, so you are here. Okay. Well, I can't make it. I'm going to get a book.
I fundamentally always do on the home team just to start out each year. Because especially with the Eagles, our odds are going to be horrendous. You need to take those odds.
Curious is there a number right now?
Folks, if you're out there listening, take those odds. Whatever your home team is at the beginning of the season, one team's going to win. And either way, it's never a 1-to-1 ratio. So
I'm curious what their odds are now.
well, whatever their odds are, that's my answer to how I think they'll fare against the rest of the NFL. And I guess the favorite is like a 300-to-1 or something like that, or plus 300.
I don't know. You know what? We will have to find out for next time.
There we
What
go.
the over under are. What the over under for next season looks like.
So Patrick Mahomes, because I do want to touch on Patrick Mahomes as a player. The guy's different, man. He's different, and you got to give the Kansas City Chiefs all the credit in the world for going up to get him, because when they did it, everyone scratched their heads. They're like, Deshaun Watson, like they thought like he was the guy of the draft, and you had Mitch Trubisky. I remember that was the name from that draft, but no one thought that. And remember, you still had Alex Smith on Kansas City, and Kansas City was winning games.
Yeah.
They went up and they got their guy. They knew it was their guy, and they were right. And that guy is just different. I mean, his ability to convert first downs with his legs, it's such a backbreaker when he does it, because he hits you with the passing game all game long. But then in money time, it's inevitable that when you think that you've covered everyone down the field,
here he comes.
There he goes. He takes off, and he's faster than you think.
Yeah.
The guy's just like, he's an incredible player. He sees the game in a way that most guys don't. It's weird when you watch him play, you realize like how much growth Jalen Hurts has to go to kind of be really in a comp, even though they went head to head in the Super Bowl, and Jalen Hurts arguably was the best player on the field. As well as he played in that game, you still understand that Patrick Mahomes is light years beyond him in terms of just truly understanding and being able to manipulate defenses. He manipulates defenses. He won the Super Bowl with throwing it to whoever.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were punishing receivers. Like, who's the guy who dropped some passes?
Oh, Valdez, like MVS.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden they gave him an unhealthy scratch, and he had the nerve to say, "I'm not hurt." They're not telling the truth. They said,
"Oh, you're talking about Tony."
Yeah. So for the Super Bowl, he was a healthy scratch.
Yeah.
So you're not even playing guys who are pass catchers.
Yeah.
It's the biggest game, and Patrick Mahomes is still getting it done. So it's like he is really a guy that makes the rest of the team better. Yes, their defense is elite. Like, you got to tip your hat. The defense is real. But Patrick Mahomes' ability to just manage games and understanding how to win games is unique. And as long as you have that guy, that's the only team that I would say has a chance to get back there. It's Kansas City.
Oh, he's always gonna be in the conversation.
And honestly, I would say the 49ers, because I think their roster is still physically imposing. Other than that, I don't know.
We are going to see how multiple years of failure, and I'm not upset about it, affect that team. We are going to see how Greenlaw's injury affects that team. We are going to see how loss of Wilkes affects that team. Because all of these are factors that affect morale and leadership. And so if you're starting to question the decision-making of the head coach, we see that here. And if you've got guys who aren't there on the field in Greenlaw and whoever else may leave, I'm not sure what the money situation. Ayuk had some posts after the game where he was like, I got you here. What happened?
I think he's out of there.
You're right. So what kind of conversations are happening, and how does that affect their success going forward?
I hope they self-destruct.
I hope they blow up.
I hope they self-destruct. I hope they just can't take it. Their psyches could not take a loss. I mean, the fact that they weren't prepared for the overtime, not knowing that them scoring doesn't win the game. Listen, if I'm a player, I'm salty about that. Why was I not prepared? How come we didn't go over this before the game, that we can't win it on our first possession? Like, I need to know something like that. And I need to know that you know something like that.
Right.
And I don't feel like they felt that they were prepared properly, because Kansas City, and here's the thing, Kansas City was like, y'all can have the ball first, because we already went over this scenario and we're going to go for two. There won't be a third time with the ball. You guys go down and score. When we score, we're going to win the game, because we know how to win a game, because we know the rules of overtime in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And the fact that you guys don't, to me, again, a lot of alarms are ringing off in San Francisco. And I hope people just exit.
Well, listen, in all of that, though, shout out to Andy Reid. Congratulations to him.
No doubt.
I don't think that any of this would have happened in Philadelphia. I know there's a conversation around like he's the greatest coach, and he absolutely is a Hall of Fame coach. There's no question about it. I don't think that he is this person that he is right now had he stayed in Philadelphia the whole time. I think there was a point where he probably needed to go, and he got Mahomes. So, like, we didn't have Mahomes.
He gets Mahomes, and it happens. If he doesn't have Mahomes, it doesn't happen. Mahomes is the reason. If he had Mahomes in his jersey, trust me, he had this team flying high again.
Well, I'm happy for him. I think that he had a number of personal circumstances with his sons here.
Yeah,
he probably needed a change of space.
Oh, I don't disagree.
Yeah, so I'm happy for him. I'm happy for them. I'm happy for the Chiefs. I'm happy for the Niners fans. There's always next year.
Will always root for, like they always kind of pull for Big Red. And again, it's like for him to be the team that the guy that beats the 49ers, it's a solid.
Yeah.
Like the 49ers, like I said, they change our team forever.
Anyway, real quick, you know what the play they scored on was the exact same play they ran against the Eagles twice, where there was a quick motion from the receiver.
Yeah, how about that?
To get on the edge, create that natural screen, and now he's out-leveraged the defender, and he beat him to the corner. All of that conversation the Niners had.
What they do on the defensive side of the ball, right? Like they send the coverage to the other side.
And then they move they motion the receiver back quickly. So we
don't motion him back. As he's running this way and they call him, they send the signal to say, yo, you're gonna have this guy who's now sort of in motion. They just call hike.
Yeah.
And on hike, he just pivots back out.
He pivots back out.
And so the guy on your side, that's no longer his assignment. So he's not even looking for him because he's already given that assignment to the other side of the field. And so when they call hike and he spins out of it, it's like, wait a minute.
By himself. I love that.
They did it twice to us, man.
I love that it happened to a team like the Niners because they trashed us. And the exact same play and the exact same scenario came back and burnt y'all too. So we're in this together. We're in this together.
Well, being in this together, my friend, why don't we go ahead and do our customarily close out of the show in terms of what are you processing? And I'll start this one off. I feel like the last few I ended it, but I'll start this one off.
Go for it.
Just had yesterday we were celebrating the birthdays in the month of February for the family. Like it's something that if we have a collection of birthdays in a particular month, we try to get together one day and just say everybody kind of come over and just acknowledge it. So February we had I think like 5 birthdays in our family. But what was interesting is that prior to the event, I heard something from this gentleman who was talking about when we think about the time we have left, right? And so he was talking about a person whose father, he said his father was like 70 years old. And he said he generally sees his parents about twice a year. And so he's like, in the conversation he had with him, he said, well, let's say your father lives till he's 80. Mm-hmm. And if you see him twice a year, then theoretically, what you're saying is that you have 10 more times to see him. And so it's like when you think of life that way, where you sort of like reverse engineer it a bit based off of like how you are living your life and how often you will see your loved ones based off of just your behavior and your patterns, it gives you a different sense of urgency and desire to have connection. And so having read that or seen that piece prior to Sunday and then Sunday having the family together, like there was something about it that really hit me in a different way. And so I know that part of what I'm going to be doing and processing is creating more opportunities for family engagement. And so just sharing with my wife, like, hey, we just got to open up our home more. It doesn't have to be a birthday just because if we don't, then here's going to be the handful of times we see them in a calendar year.
So a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, like a year or two ago, he has children similar ages. He's got a son who's 10 and a son who's 7 and then a daughter. So similar ages to my children. And he said it exactly how he made the same exact point, except it was in the context of Christmas. So he's got a sister who lives out of town. She does not have children. She invited my friend's sons and daughter over for the holiday just to spend with, her nieces and nephew or nephews and niece. And he said, wait a minute, I've only got 6 6 more Christmases before my son starts driving. And he wants to go split his holidays with other friends. And before, he then goes to college in 7 years or 8 years or whatever it is. And he's not going to be here for the entire time because he may want to go travel with somebody. And then he's going to have a lot more autonomy than we do right now. When he said that, it created such a sense of urgency in the same way that you're talking about birthdays right now.
Right.
And that hits differently for me because I live out of town. So when I see my parents, I have to get on a plane, which I know is going to cost time and money. Not that I'm ever upset about it, but I know that's a limited occasion. So that time is very personal, and it has to be very deliberate. And the crazy part about it is that I am more deliberate about my time now that I am all the way here. We don't ever think about kind of the plans that we make while there, because everything can be taken away from us because we know, nothing is for certain when someone gets in a car, or if you wake up that morning, or if there's a health emergency, or who knows what.
Yeah.
And the lack of urgency in those instances, because we don't think in that way, can completely change our circumstances and our expectations of how we relate to people on a day-to-day basis that we actually really do love and value.
Yeah.
So I feel you on that completely.
Yeah.
On the other side of that whole conversation, in terms of what I was processing, so I sound like I smoke because I am absolutely fighting a cold, but I promise you I don't. However, before I jumped on this call, I was at Walgreens. There was a lady, true story, Sam. This woman bought 10 individual packs of Marlboro Unfiltered, dog. I'm thinking to myself, like, yo, first of all, what year is this? Who is buying 10 packs of cigarettes at a pharmacy? Like, she spent $95 or whatever it was. I'm not even joking, like $95. I got one bottle of
it's close to like $10, I think, for
that's what I'm saying. Yo, and I don't know the last time anyone's seen a pack of cigarettes. Yo, there are straight graphic images on certain packages. Like, you see what bad lungs look like. Like, that's really where it's at.
Like, are you sure you want to buy these?
Right. Like, this is what your lungs look like after you smoke these 8 sticks.
Wow.
And so, no shade to anybody who smokes.
You said unfiltered.
Yo, it was it was like wrapped in tar, like not even a joke.
Texas, baby.
That's what I'm saying. Like, straight up. My girl, I just am trying to figure out who is buying at one time. Like, wholesale.
This turn around, spin those off for 15 a piece.
Yo, it's just mad Lucy's everywhere. I'm just trying to understand what it is.
Unfiltered Lucy's. They'll really give you
I'm like, who is doing this? And so I honestly, and then crazy enough, not too long ago,
10 packs of unfiltered cigarettes.
When I was there, my family got together down in Atlantic City around the holidays. And so I had forgotten what it's like to be in a room where everybody smokes. Everybody smokes. I just didn't know what that was like. Yo, I literally
walked. People have smoked in a long time. I gotta admit, it's been a while.
Yo,
but it's crazy because it's like, we grew up in an era where that was common. We grew up in an era where planes had ashtrays. You know what I'm saying? So
right,
it's like the cars were built in ashtrays, like all of that. And so, so got a comment that says I can smell the smoke.
Yeah, it's wild, man. I'm telling you, like, you go into these places and straight up, you go in these places and it was like just haze everywhere. This lady was like unabashed, yo. She's sitting there with like her oxygen and smoking cigarettes. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
YOLO, baby.
So I don't know. I'm just trying to process the fact that it's 2024. And we out here burning it down still with cigarettes. Yo, do anything else.
And they putting images on it to try to deter you. They charge you $25 a pack to try to deter you.
I'm saying, and like, yo, so like there was a point, Sam, real quick. I'll wrap this up because it's just so funny to me. There was a point where the Surgeon's General warning used to say like medically related things. It might be like may cause cancer or may cause chronic lung disease. They're now just mad rude on these packages. Like, go around and find out these cigarettes will kill you. Like the Surgeon General is mad hood with these messages on these cigarette packages. It's wild. It's wild.
You finna die.
Yeah, it really is like that. Like, what is wrong with you, dog? It's serious. It is serious. It's a bad look. So, at any rate, I was at Walgreens. I was there for Dayquil. This cannot take effect fast enough. But this woman was there for 10 packs of Marlboros, and I just did not understand it at all. So,
Wow.
here we are in 2024, still doing the same things.
Well, my brother, another great episode, another great show. 2024, still doing what we used to do. I said this. Pass the peas like you say. You said pass the marble like they used to do.
Straight
You
up,
know,
man.
I'm having some challenges here with my camera, so I'm just gonna close this out quickly.
All good.
There we go. So again, man, this has been awesome. Really enjoy sort of breaking down the Sixers. To your point, I do think that we have an opportunity to do some things this postseason. I do think we're a live team. We just got to be in the dance. And I think once we're in, we're as good as anybody. I don't think any team wants to see a fully loaded Sixers, a healthy Sixers team,
They're gonna be scary.
in the playoffs at all. So I think we're like that. I really believe we're like the Miami Heat from years past, or even the Miami Heat now, right? They're like all year long, they're always around the bottom, but in the playoffs, they're just trying to get in. They just need to be the final eight.
This will be the first year in which of like the Embiid era where we're probably going to be a bottom, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 seed.
I agree.
And
But
we
it's
won't
because
be favored.
And we'll be favored.
The expectations are going to change because now coming in as the bottom, you won't be favored, but they will expect to win,
Right.
which would be nice.
Right. Agreed.
So we'll see how it goes. I look forward to it. Pray for good health, man.
Yeah, that's all you can do is pray for health. Well, folks, hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Again, as always, please feel free to like and subscribe on the way out. And for Sam Malik, again, welcome to the Processing. We'll be live every Monday night. It's our first live show. So every Monday night, if you want to join us, check us out live at 10 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to drop the link to start the show so you can join us. We're always going to put the topics up on the screen. All we ask is that you cam up if you're going to join us on screen. We'd love to get you part of the discussion. Again, we're a Philly-based sports show, but we tackle a ton of different topics as believers and fathers and husbands. We're pretty well-rounded individuals, if I do say so myself. What do you think, Malik?
I think smoke if you got him, Sam. Smoke if you got him.
Well, on that note, until next time, folks, peace.
Take care.